Okay, you're all set.
First, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Gussie Sakowitz. I'm a teacher at Miami Beach Senior High. My certification is in Family and Consumer Sciences. So I have over 16 years experience teaching life skills, and I am excited to talk to everyone today about getting ready for their future careers. So today's session is called Career Paths and Clusters, and it's a continuation from a session we did last week called My Brand. And My Brand was about establishing your own personal brand. And what we did was we looked at popular brands such as McDonald's or Nike, and we looked at the importance of having a good reputation, doing service in the community, and just building an all-around positive model for what those brands stand for, which is why people continue to support those brands, which is very similar to creating your own personal brand, because you want to build a good reputation about yourself as being hardworking, dependable, responsible. And that's how you're going to get recommendations for college or interviews or positions for internships and jobs that you want in the future. So that leads us into today's session, which is Career Paths and Clusters. And I'm going to start by sharing my screen here. Now, it might seem like a career is a long way off, but it's never too early to start thinking about your future. And it's part of a process. So like I said, last week we covered My Brand, and this week we're talking about Career Paths and Clusters. And that's going to lead us into next week, which is going to be about high growth careers, which is good because if we want to plan for a career that's going to definitely need to hire people in the future, we want to know which careers are considered high growth. Then we're going to talk more about career mapping, which is something we will discuss a little bit today. And, And then we're going to talk about On the Hunt, which is searching for jobs. And then finally, we're going to talk about soft skills. And those are not the skills you typically study in college, but those are skills that, attitudes, characteristics about yourself that make you very desirable in the career industry or in the job that you have. So I'm going to actually stop sharing right now if I can, because I want to show you something. I think that's, May I ask, can you all see me? Am I sharing? Am I sharing, Regine? Can you see my screen or do you see me?
We can see your screen, but it's not open full screen.
Okay, that's okay.
There you go.
Oh, I see the stop share. Excellent. Okay, sorry. Before I continue, I want to go ahead and show you a few documents I have, and they're part of the Junior Achievement workbook for this unit, Career Paths and Clusters. So this first one here is Career Paths and Clusters, and it's just like a little sheet where you would circle careers that you're interested in, and you'd also write down the definitions for the vocabulary words we're going to talk about today. Now, the next thing I have is a Career Clusters Interest Survey. It's an 8-page packet. I highly recommend you all take as many career interest surveys as possible. So there's an 8-page survey that comes with this unit, but as we're going to show you later, there's also a link to an online survey. And if you don't have access to a printer, that's going to be really helpful. Now, this next thing that I have, it's 16 pages. I don't recommend anyone printing it. What it does is it breaks down the 16 career clusters, and it goes into detail about the education needed and the different positions and jobs for each career cluster. I would recommend everyone look really closely at the career cluster that they find that they're most interested in and that they receive the highest scores in. And then finally, I have this sheet here, and it says My Career Interest. And basically, it's just an opportunity for you to gather some notes about the top career paths and clusters that you're interested in. Okay. And now I'm going to go back to sharing the screen, but I want to make sure you saw that. And if you have that and you want to follow along and complete the worksheets, great. If not, The big part about this is definitely taking a career interest survey, preferably the one we're going to cover online now. Okay. So we just talked about how this is a journey and your career is a journey. And we're going to explore different career options today. We're going to look at 16 different career categories. And I want you to think about the ones that might be most interesting to you. Now, all future sessions are going to cover other important career issues. And today we're focusing mostly on these career clusters. So in other sessions, we'll talk about the job outlook, mapping a path to a career destination, how to get a job, and how to keep a job. And how to keep a job is that, that thing I alluded to earlier, soft skills. All right, so let's go ahead and let's talk about career clusters. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of the term career cluster before. And if you have, I'd love to hear how other people describe and define career clusters. I'm going to give you the definition here from Junior Achievement. It's a group of jobs and industries that are related by the knowledge and skills they require. So if you are following along at home and you have the little worksheet to write the definition of career cluster down at on the very top, this is the definition that you would write. Now, I have lots of information about several different career clusters, 16 to be exact, and I look forward to sharing that as we go through the presentation. Now, I'm going to show you here a career cluster diagram, and it has 16 possible career clusters. So one that sticks out to me right now is transportation, distribution, and logistics. My mom was in transportation, and I have a friend that was in transportation. And both of these people went into transportation because they liked driving. Definitely not one of my interests. I would not score very high in this area if I was taking it, but this was something they liked. And they actually really, and it's, two strong ladies that really liked driving very large vehicles. One of them drove a metro bus for the city, and my mom drove a school bus for Miami-Dade County Public Schools. But what I want you to do is look over here on the side where you can see that it's not just about driving. That's kind of the cool thing about the career cluster. Sometimes when we think of transportation, we think of just driving. But here you've got the health, safety, and environmental management, part of the logistics. You've got sales and service. You've got operations, management, regulation. And you're going to see that that's going to be a theme in many of these career clusters. Facility and mobile equipment maintenance, warehousing and distribution center operations. I think if you've been watching the news lately, you probably have heard that Amazon has been hiring a lot of people for their warehousing and distribution centers because of the need of having things delivered now. So, as times change, so do the needs of these different career clusters. And I'm going to go into more in a couple of slides, but I figure let's go ahead and let's pick out another one right now. I'd like to pick out hospitality and tourism. So I know I'm talking to students here in Bay Harbor, and I'm a teacher at Miami Beach Senior High. Well, we have an Academy of Hospitality and Tourism at Beach High, and it's a very popular academy, and they help students get internships in the hospitality industry. So this breaks it down into different types of jobs and careers one can have: lodging, recreation, amusement, attractions. I know several people that did not major in hospitality in college, but Disney offers internships, and it was a hospitality related internship through a hospitality program, outreach program. And these students were allowed to intern at Disney World and get all kinds of fun Disney benefits. But another popular one in hospitality and tourism is restaurants and the food beverage industry. And again, at Beach High, we have culinary arts as a class. And for the AOHT travel and tourism class, there are several different classes in different levels. So one would take a class each year. And I decided to bring this up because this is an industry that I'm sure we're all missing. And I know once things get back to the way they were after the pandemic, this will be a booming industry again in Miami and South Florida. But if, as we all live in South Florida, this is definitely an industry we've heard a lot about. Okay. Again, I'll go through all of them, so if that was too fast, it'll be repeated in another slide. All right, now, so we talked about the career clusters. Now we have career pathways. So let's get the definition there. And again, if you're following along at home, I'll hold up the resource takeaway here, but it's this one here. And right at the top, you would write down the definition for career pathways. So these are groups of occupations that share more specific knowledge, skills, and interests. So when you take the survey today, you're going to find out what career cluster you're most interested in, because it has a lot of jobs related to your interests and your skills. Well, once we look at that career cluster, we're going to find a career path that we're interested in. And a lot of times one career leads to another and leads to another as you advance in the career throughout your life. So this would allow you to focus more specifically on the path that you're interested in. And just because I'm a career and technical education teacher at Miami Beach Senior High and Miami-Dade County Public Schools, I do want to tell you this is a big thing that career and technical education devotes a lot of energy and time into, is providing career pathways for students all across the district. And while Miami Beach Senior High has AOHT, they have the Academy of Education and Training, they have the arts program, we have marine science. There are schools across the district that have other paths that are very different. For instance, my husband is a teacher and he works, and he's a CT teacher, and they have gaming and coding. That's what he teaches at his school. So that's a very different pathway that we don't have at Beach High, but if we have students that are interested in computers and coding and a very specific interest in the pathway of gaming, then a student would maybe elect to go to a different school that they'd be able to start studying that. And I bring up his school because I love animals, and they also have a veterinary program. Again, that's something that's not offered at Beach High, but it is offered in our district. So other career pathways, just so that students can start gaining experience and knowledge in the careers that they're interested in. And again, that's the theme this week, and it's just very important for all of you to start thinking about what your interests are. You're never going to hear me tell you that you must know what your final career is today, because you don't need to. What you do need to do is start recognizing the interests and the skills that you have, and start exploring different opportunities to either build those skills or learn more about different skills so you can truly find the career that's best for you. Okay, so now we're back at the career clusters slide and diagram, and I do want to go into a little bit more details about it. So basically, your personal job should fit within a specific career cluster. So if you're in banking, you're probably going to be in the finance cluster. And then within the finance cluster, you're probably going to be in the banking services pathway. So let's go ahead and let's follow that lead, and let's look at finance. So within finance, there are several different options. So I do know people that selected this when they were in high school. They loved math, they loved numbers. This is something they were strong in. And they really wanted to work in a career related to finance. So I know people that went into accounting, and I know people that went into banking. And within each of those are separate career pathways. So I'd like to go ahead and give you another example. And when we give examples, we basically can speak for what we know. So I'll go ahead and move over to the education and training. Again, this is the career cluster that I'm most interested in. If there are questions that anyone has about careers, I can answer anything related to this pathway, because not only is this where my career pathway fits, but the class that I taught for over 10 years was education and training at Miami Beach Senior High. So I taught high school students that wanted to go into education, particularly early childhood. So this is another one. And so if you look, you do see teaching and training. That's the third one there. And I think when you think of education, that's what you think of most. But don't forget, there's the administration and administrative support and professional support services. Think of the people that work in the office. Think of your principal or assistant principal that's running the school. Think of the school district overall. That's education and training. And there are so many different areas within the school district where people are working to make sure all the needs of the school district are met. And this is probably getting more attention with distance learning than ever before. I mean, there's an entire department making sure that teachers are learning about distance learning, so teachers are able to provide lessons online for students. Then there's another department that's providing IT support for teachers so that teachers have all the working equipment and software that they need to make everything run. So there is a lot that goes into education and training. Then there are local businesses such as barbers. I mean, I don't know where you would all think that barber would fit in, but since I'm looking at that example, that would probably go in here under human services. These are, that's a business that would provide a consumer service for people. Then you've got a machine operator that goes under the manufacturing. So let's take a look at the manufacturing. And if I passed it, let's see, distribution logistics, there it is. Okay, so again, if someone's a machine operator, that goes under manufacturing. But then when you look at that, you see there's so much else in manufacturing. There's not just people operating machines. There are people making sure the production is running on time, making sure the quality of the products is as it should be, and looking into quality assurance to make sure no one's getting damaged products. We all know, we see it on the news, what happens if there's products that are manufactured. There are obviously going to be people that are making sure the equipment and the machinery is working well. There are people there that are going to represent health and safety in the environment to make sure the environment is not being harmed by the equipment or the least harm possible, but also to make sure that the employees are operating in safe and healthy work conditions. So yeah, there's several different clusters and several different careers related to each. I talked about information technology, and you can't not talk about information technology right now since we're all either working from home or learning from home or both. But if anyone feels that they're gaining a greater interest in computers and working in the computer, this is an area. And while there are only 4 pathways listed, this is a very broad area, and it's one of the areas that's expected to continue to grow in the future. We all rely on technology. And then we'll try and pick one other one before we move on. And this one here, this is something that's definitely getting a lot of attention now as well. The agriculture, food, and natural resources industry. I'm sure you know about all the large agricultural business that we have in South Dade County in the Homestead area. And they're continuing to make sure food is growing and food is offered and provided, even though it's not being consumed as much as it was before. But within agriculture, it is a science, and it's not just about growing the food, it's about the machinery and the technology used to grow it as efficiently and safely as possible. It's about producing foods and packaging. It's about the resources and the natural power used. And it's about the science of producing food in an environmentally friendly way. And there also is the area related to the animals involved in the food production. So yeah, this is a great time, if anyone has any career path that they're really interested in, you can chime in now and we can click on it, or we could wait until we complete the survey and we can learn a little bit more there. But this diagram is very powerful in that it lists the 16 major career clusters, and then it shows different pathway options within each cluster. So just quickly, some other ones that I hadn't covered before, we've got architecture and construction. I don't believe I covered arts, AV, technology, and communication. Also, Beach High has a great journalism and performing arts program, visual arts program, if you like to get behind the video camera or like to get on stage and perform. Business management and administration. For things like this, even if you're not sure, you're thinking that maybe you're interested in a business related major, you want to go into business, you don't even have to select that as your college or program of study at the high school, you can actually join a club like FBLA, and then it gives you an opportunity to compete in an area that you're interested in and see how much you like it. We did talk about education, we talked about finance, government and public administration. I'm actually going to save that for later, and I'd like to save it for a little later, because this, I've learned, is one of the more popular careers that my students are interested in. Health science is also another popular one. We talked about hospitality and tourism. We talked about human services, information technology. I'd like to talk about law, public safety, and corrections and security. Again, at Beach High, we have JROTC, and so that's something that would kind of fit into this cluster if this is what someone's interested in. But do know that we are working on getting a cybersecurity class available soon. Manufacturing, we did talk about, and marketing, I'll talk more about. This is definitely an up-and-coming career as well, with all the opportunities to market products and brands online. STEM, we definitely have a STEM and STEAM program at Beach High, and you know, this is definitely what we consider the career cluster of the future as well, right? And then this brings us full circle, and we'll go ahead and use the next one. Okay, so just, yeah, just to reiterate, because I did want to say, and I know I talked about the career clusters and the career pathways, but for instance, when we spoke about agriculture, you know, you might want to work with animals, or you might want to work with animals, but maybe you don't want to be a veterinarian, or you don't want to be a medical researcher, and maybe you don't want to work in a zoo, and maybe you want something a little bit different, like being a dog groomer. Still, you're working with animals, even though that might be closer to human services. But it's so many different pathways within, you know, the same career cluster. And so that's why these are really powerful to help you start thinking about the jobs that you're interested in. So on that note, let's dive deeper into interests. Okay, so I'm gonna just hold this up right now. This is 8 pages, and it's the career interest survey, and I actually don't need to hold it up because it's right there on your screen. But I am a paper and pencil kind of person, and the reason I do like that is because when you're done, you actually have a copy of the survey and you can review it later. I like to tell my students, sometimes you'll complete a survey one day and then you revisit it again the next year, and you're going to get a slightly different score. And there are lots of reasons for it. It doesn't mean that you've completely changed as a person. It just means you've learned a little bit more about yourself. Maybe you joined a different club. Maybe you watched a TV show. I'll get back to that. Maybe you met a teacher that you had that really inspired you, and that teacher talked about their background and how they're bringing that into their class. Maybe you paid attention to what your parents were doing and you gained more interest there. Or, you know, so it could be a wide variety of things that helped you gain more interest in certain career clusters. And I brought up the TV show because I had actually surveyed my students to see if careers portrayed or presented on TV shows they liked had any impact in the career they want to pursue. And as strange as it is, I had a lot of students that were interested in crime scene investigations or going into law enforcement because of the shows they saw. And we do have a forensic science class, and so many of the students were signed up for that. But so I brought that up because that's kind of neat. And as a teacher, I can relate to that. I think since I was, you know, in elementary school, I always loved watching TV shows that took place in school. I still do. So I do think the TV shows that we watch, you know, has an influence, or maybe our interest influence the shows that we typically watch.
He always does that. Jason is the one that's taking care of us. The moment I heard his voice, I know it was the same guy.
Okay. Next, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on this link. Now, I know I told you I like the paper pencil opportunity of completing a survey, but here's an online survey because right now this might be the best way to do it for everyone. So what I will do is go back to that screen. Okay, so it's careerwise.nsd.gov. MINN State, so it's Minnesota State.edu, and there's their career cluster. Okay, so we go over here, and so I'm going to click on Get Started, and very similar, if not the same, to what we were looking at. And just for the purpose of going a little bit faster for those of you that are watching at home, I'm going to go through this way faster than you should. You know, if you're doing this at home, I do want you to read through every line to see what you're interested in. But, you know, something here that I'm looking at that pops out at me is design brochures and posters. I really enjoy doing that. So I would click on that. And I can click on as many activities as I would like. Adapt to change or perform a variety of duties that may change. I'm not against it, but I don't know if that's the one I want to pick. So I'm going to keep looking, be involved in politics, be outdoors. I'm going to keep going. Budget and handle money and records with accuracy and reliability. Sure, I like that. Care about people and their needs. I would click that. Concentrate for long periods of time without being distracted. So it's going to go on and on. So there's that question about drive or ride. I would be that person to skip that, but as I've told you, I have friends and family where this would have been the first thing they checked. So we're all different, and you know, the important thing is us recognizing our own interests, because the career that we choose is personal to us. It's something that, you know, we're going to commit to doing. And I say that very carefully too, because I don't want anyone to think that this is an absolute lifelong commitment. Statistics say that most people will actually change their career multiple times throughout their life. And it's not that one should go into a career going to change. It's just that when time changes, so does the needs of society. Those evolve, and therefore they often cause people to need to look for different careers. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click next. I'm sure there were several other things that I could have checked off. And this is activities part 2, so it's more activities. Now, you know, help sick people and animals. I love people and I love animals, but I actually would not select that because I don't deal very well with injuries and assisting with injuries. I'm very queasy with that. So I would not do well in the medical industry. So I avoid that one. We're going to avoid the hunting and fishing one because that's not a career for me. But I'm going to keep looking. I do like to make visual displays to promote ideas. I do like to observe and analyze people's behavior, participate in community services and volunteering. Let's see, where it says persuade people to buy products, that's not my thing, that's sales. And I know so many of my students that actually select that and they do very well with that. I can't play a musical instrument. Read and write, I really enjoy that. So I would select that and then move on to the next one. All right, so next here we have activities part 3. So the first thing it's asking is shop and go to the mall. I would definitely pick that. Take classes. So we're going to keep moving down. Work to meet a deadline, work under pressure, work with my hands. So these are all activities I like. Now we're moving to another category that describes personal qualities. So adventurous, I would not check, but I would check caring. So as I'm doing this, it's great if you want to go along with me at home and complete this career survey, but it's also more than okay if you want to take time and work on this personally. Because again, this is a very personal and private thing, selecting your interests and activities you like to really come up with a career cluster that fits your interests. Detail-oriented, I would pick, enthusiastic, friendly, and I'm just going to go ahead and click the next to move this along. Personal qualities, part 2 of 3. So logical, analytical thinker, non-judgmental, moving along, optimistic, organized, patient, persistent. It says pay attention to detail again, and we'll keep going. All right, this should be part 3 of personal qualities. Self-motivated, self-reliant. I usually don't need anyone to push me. That's what it's asking. I can kind of do these things on my own. I like to work well with others, and we'll move on to the next one. which will probably be fun for those of you following along with me because it deals with school subjects. So I probably would enjoy accounting. I've never had the pleasure of taking it. I see economics down here that I really enjoyed. Art and graphic design, banking, finance. You're going to keep going down. I have learned that computer technology and networking is not my greatest skill. So we're going to go through there. I've tried, I like it, but it's not something I'm skilled at. Marketing. And we'll now go so we can look at more school subjects. Psychology. Right, and I think that's good here. All right, so now let's process my results. And this is the really fun part for those of you following along. I have to admit, though, I did do this very quickly. I'm not going to say that this is an accurate representation of careers that I'm interested in. But if I was going through a little bit slowly, the results would have a higher value. But what I do want to show you, and if you all can look at the screen here, you're going to see my top matching career clusters, okay? And so this is kind of interesting. It says that my #1 career cluster is marketing, sales, and service. That's an odd situation for me. I love marketing, would never do anything related to sales. But you know what? These are two different pathways that happen to be in the same cluster. I like one, but I don't like the other. Next is finance. I've always enjoyed working with finances and money, and I love talking about it and teaching finance. So I definitely can see where I scored high in that. And next is hospitality and tourism. That's interesting. It's something I've never thought of pursuing, but I did work for City of Miami Beach Parks and Recreations for quite a few years. And that was because I enjoy working with people, and I really, really enjoy working with children. So that makes perfect sense there. I'd like to say that my sister is probably one of the best early childhood teachers I've ever seen. And so she's worked for the city in an early childhood setting. She works for Dade County Schools currently in an early childhood setting. But you're going to find this interesting. She actually worked in an early childhood setting through hospitality and tourism. And that's something people probably don't think of because they're thinking of maybe the culinary industry or hotels and management. But she worked for the recreation division, and she ran the child daycare center. So she did arts and crafts activities. She planned special events for the holidays. But this is, when families are staying at resorts and they're out of town and they don't have anyone to take care of their children, they would bring them the children there. So just again, interesting and different career pathways within a cluster. So don't be surprised if you get a cluster that you don't really relate to at all. And what's really cool about this is it also provides the remaining, I believe it's 13, I think there's a total of 16, 13 career clusters that I didn't score as high in, okay? All right, so that is a survey. Now we're gonna get back over here. Okay. Okay, so one of the next things you would want to do if you're following along at home is you would use the sheet here that says my career interest. Again, I don't need to show it to you because it's right there on your screen. So what you would want to do is look at your two highest scoring clusters. Now, if you remember, I would be writing down marketing and sales, and then I would be writing down finance as #2. And this is leading us into the next portion of today's lesson, which is now that we know what our career clusters are, we want to explore them in more detail. And this is also suggesting that I identify 4 potential career paths on my handout here. So remember, my third one was hospitality. We're going to go over here, and there are remaining clusters. And I received 4 points for 3 different clusters. So human services, information technology, law, public safety, and security. So if you're following along at home and you want to get that 4th cluster down and you also have a three-way tie like me, read the description and see which one you're most interested in. Right, now what I'd like to do is go back to this reference sheet here that I have. Now I'm going to hold this up. Remember I said you don't need to print this, but it's the career information sheets and it's 16 different pages and it's one page for each career cluster. So what I would do with this is I would go to my career interest sheet, I would write down my top 4 clusters, and then for each of the clusters, I would look at the careers that are listed there to see what I'm most interested in. So I'd like to go ahead and I'd like to look for marketing and sales to see what those different careers are, to see if I can find something that interests me. I'm starting to think it's going to be the last page almost. Okay, so I'm at the marketing, sales, and service sheet, and I'm looking at a whole bunch of different careers. So what's neat is it has the career listed, it describes the career on the sheet, and then it'll also tell me the education needed. So remember, I said that I'm interested in the marketing aspect of this cluster, but not the sales aspect as much. So I'm looking and I'm going to see here. So we've got telemarketer. I would skip that. It's got several different career pathways related to sales. So I'm going to skip that. It actually has a career for model. So this is someone that would model clothing and accessories. I would skip that. Now, it has a couple here that are very interesting to me that I do like. It's got the marketing manager. It's got the meeting or event planner. I love to plan events. So this is something here that I would maybe look into and probably would explain why I received a high score in this area. It also has something at the very bottom called a wholesale and retail buyer. I really, really enjoy shopping, which might sound like I just like to shop and it's just an interest. But I actually like to also do this for school and find supplies and resources for the classroom. And I'll do this for family, I'll do this for companies that I've worked for. I like to shop around and get the best deal. So this is also another career interest or a career pathway that I would look into. So I would have to select one of these that I'm most interested in, write that career down, write the description down here. I can use the description that's provided on this sheet, or I could write my own description. So before I select, I'm just interested. So if I want to be a wholesale retail buyer, that only needs a high school education, okay? If I want to be a meeting or event planner, that requires a bachelor's degree. And if I want to be a marketing manager, that requires a bachelor's degree. So if you're following along at home, I think, and I hope you're starting to put the pieces of the puzzle together. So we're looking at the careers that interest us. We're looking at potential career pathways. And now we're starting to get an idea of the education level that's needed for each of these careers. And this is all designed to help us start planning our journey or the best path to reach our career, the career of our dreams in the future. So if we find something that we're really interested in and it says that we need a medical degree or a master's degree or a bachelor's degree, then we know we need to start planning accordingly. We can't start calculating and say, oh, that's just too many years of education, too many years of school. We have to look at how exciting it is to have the opportunity to study what we're interested in and plan for it, okay? The number of years that you're investing in school should never be too much because it's an investment in your future. You'll spend the rest of your life enjoying that investment and being a part of that career and growing and developing in that career. So I think that's just a very important thing to consider and probably one of the key elements of this unit this week. Okay, moving right along. It would be nice if we were able to do this in person and we had the opportunity to meet and discuss our interests with other students our age, but we're social distancing, so we're not able to do that right now. But for those of you following along at home, You have people at home you can talk to. And I'd love for you to take this opportunity to be a conversation you have later on. Discuss the career results that you received. Discuss, and if you were surprised by what you got, even better. It means you need to really look into the different career pathways in that cluster. But see if, you know, the friends and family that you either talk to on the phone or friends and family that you live with, see if they also have similar interests. And now is definitely a good time to start asking people questions about these careers. The more you know, the better. Everything is a little bit, every career is going to be a little competitive. You know, whenever you have a position you're interested in applying for, it might be your first job or your first interview or your first internship, you're likely going to be applying with other people. And the more that you've researched about that career pathway and that career cluster, the closer you'll be to getting the position. Now, knowledge about a career is not the only thing that's going to get you that position. We'll be talking about other important skills in future lessons, but it is important to get you started. Okay, so now, we did talk about discussing this with family and friends, but this slide is also important because it's providing some really good specific questions to ask. And this is a question to ask yourself. Why did you select this job? What is it that interests you? You know, I talked about event planning. I selected that because I really, truly enjoy planning events. There's nothing I like more than planning a birthday party or a baby shower or an opening of school breakfast for all the teachers at my school. So what appeals to you about it? So what is it that you like about the job that you picked? You know, does event planning makes me happy when others enjoy my events? There's a creative aspect to the design, selecting the menu, planning every single detail. How are you getting prepared for this vision of your future? So throughout this presentation, I know I spoke a lot about the academies that we have at Miami Beach Senior High. I know I spoke about the JROTC program, marine science, visual and performing arts, the Academy of Education and Training, the Academy of Hospitality and Tourism. I don't think I spoke about the Academy of Information Technology and Digital Design and our growing robotics and STEM program. So I know Beach High because I work at Beach High. I also went to Beach High. I was a student there. So that's why I referenced Beach High. I was able to talk a little bit about my husband's school because I'm always interested in learning more about what they offer. But I can talk about these schools because that's what I know. It's what I've invested the most time in. But if I'm not hitting anything that interests you, then I really, really encourage you to start researching the career pathways that you're interested in. And I can almost guarantee you're going to find a school in this district that's going to offer classes that interest you. I mean, you were probably surprised when I told you that there's a school in West Kendall that has a veterinary program or a program on gaming and coding. So I want to bring it back to this. If you're thinking about getting prepared for your vision of the future, you want to start studying this career and this career pathway. And one way of doing it is taking classes that interest you in middle school and high school, if they're offered there. I mean, if nothing you're interested in is offered at a school close to you, then maybe you want to opt for the Florida Virtual School option for one class. You need one class to graduate anyway. Make it a class that you're really interested in that you can't take at Beach High. I have a student that's taking Mandarin. I was fascinated by that. I thought that was the neatest thing. He's taking it through virtual school because we don't offer it at Beach High. I have another student that was taking Latin. I mean, I thought that was brilliant. The kid's going to do great on his SAT. But, you know, they have interests, they know what their interests are, and it's not offered locally. So they're finding resources that they can use to learn more about these interests. You know, the young man that's taking Mandarin, this is probably a great prerequisite if he's going to major in business. Okay. I'm going to go to the next one. So think about the impact different careers have on the community and the world. And that's important. You know, now I think we're at a point where we all understand the importance of the environment, and that's just part of it. You know, selecting a career or profession that contributes positively and has a positive impact on the environment. But it's more than that. You know, a lot of times when I survey my students, money and salary is a big thing, and it's a major important factor, you know, selecting their career. But I have a lot of students that truly are pursuing paths that make a difference. You know, I have students that want to go into research in medicine because they want to solve, you know, medical mysteries, and they want to solve, you know, they want to find a cure for cancer. I have many students that are interested in going into politics because they believe that there's a need for change, and they want to be that change that they want to see in the world. So think about careers that have certain impacts in either your local community or the larger overall society. I went to Beach High. I loved my experience at Beach High, but I had amazing teachers that had a very positive impact on me. And I wanted to have an opportunity to be that change and that influence, just like that I had when I was a student. I want to be that person as a teacher. So that's something that helped me make a decision and the impact that I'm able to have. You know, so why are, you know, certain jobs important? And I don't actually think that's a fair question. I think every single job is important. Every job has a role. Everyone serves a purpose. You know, you can think of funny careers that you think, oh gosh, you know, that doesn't have a major impact in society. No, everything does. And that's why that career exists, because there's a need. They're providing either a product or service to people. And if people didn't need that product or service, that career would no longer exist. You know, I like to use the milkman example. You know, if you look back at pictures and movies from the 1950s, there were a lot of people that served the role of a milkman or a milkwoman, and they delivered fresh, cold milk to people's homes. And probably this was a lot more popular in the 1950s. 1950s had a lot of modern changes in the kitchen and technology, but they still had their milk delivered. But, you know, as society changed, and there was definitely a lot more milk to be purchased, and milk that's accessible to be purchased fresh from the grocery store. And grocery stores became more and more convenient and local and easy for everyone to access. And everyone has a working icebox or refrigerator at home. There wasn't as much need for the milkman or the milkwoman. So that became a profession that, you know, started to die and stopped existing. So I hope that helps you understand that every role and career that we have, it serves a need and it serves a role, and it is important. And your responsibility as a middle school student or an elementary school student that's working your way up to high school, your responsibility is to think about your interests and what, you know, what drives you, what you like to do, what you're good at, and maybe that'll help you identify what you want to do for a career. On a side note, I have to tell you, I did read an article where there is the return of the milkman. And I think it has just a lot to do with people wanting fresh organic milk being delivered to their homes. So the milkman and milkwoman has made a comeback in certain parts of this country. I found that fascinating. Okay, so at this point, I want to say that more jobs are popular than others, but they're all needed. They're all needed for society. Imagine a community without waste management. So, you know, waste management workers or road construction workers. You don't want to imagine a world without that, because that's a world without, you know, removing waste. I mean, we need waste picked up and removed. And maybe when I give out these career surveys to students in my class, I don't see that as the most popular choice that students are selecting as the career that they want in the future. But it is a career that pays well and that will always be needed in our society. I don't think we want to imagine a world without transportation or food processing workers. You know, maybe we're not selecting food processing as our major interest when we look at the career pathways on our career cluster sheet. You know, a lot of times my students, when they get to that, you know, career cluster, or when they start talking about food, a lot of my students are interested in the culinary arts. But we need people to work in a food processing plant. We need food mass produced. And I think we're all, you know, probably understanding that now, especially when it's on the news. When career processing plant or food processing plants shut down, then that's going to result in less food available in our grocery stores. That then hurts the people that are working in the grocery stores, and then it hurts our availability of purchasing food that we need. So everything is important and everything serves a purpose. So when I do these surveys, I know I said I was going to get back to the ones that were most popular with high school students. I do want to tell you that a lot of my high school students a couple years ago picked political science. That was probably the #1 career interest. Business is consistently a top choice just because it's a very general career and there's a diverse set of career pathways that fall into that category. I you know, taught the Academy of Education and Training, and I will say that sometimes that's not the most popular career choice when students are in high school. But then years later, a lot of the students do come back and they say that the interest grew and people find that they have that calling to go into a profession where they can see a more direct impact on how they're affecting. So that's neat. Okay. I also don't have a lot of students that are interested in going into other service careers like police, to be a police officer. I'll have maybe 2 students a year out of 250 students that mention that that's one of their interests. So I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that was interesting. Okay, moving on to the next slide. So at this point, I hope we're realizing that setting our goals is an important step in finding the right career path. And I challenge you to ask yourself, what did you learn about your goals today? Hopefully you learned a little bit more about your interests, your skills, and how you can match those to career goals. And hopefully if we can get one major result of this, is that you realize that your career goals are that. They are long-term goals. And you have to break those down into smaller goals in order for you to reach that goal. If you look at the slide, think of that big flag on the left end, on that big maybe iceberg. Not quite sure what that is, but think of that as your major goal, your long-term goal, and look at that pathway. That's your journey of reaching a whole bunch of smaller goals to get to that big goal. Okay, so you know, if you need to get your bachelor's degree, you might need to start looking at internships and jobs that are going to help you fund your bachelor's degree, or scholarships, or you might, you know, start thinking about the importance of focusing academics to raise your GPA so that you can get into a college that offers that program. You know, maybe networking and really getting internships while you're in college that help you connect with people that'll help you reach that goal. You know, this is not something that will stop in college, and it doesn't stop when you graduate from college. You know, careers are usually something that you're working on throughout your life, and you're usually advancing in your careers. Nobody wants to, you know, just stay in the same career, you know, for 20 or 30 years. We want to start taking on more responsibility, or we want to start doing what we've been doing even better and even more efficiently, and having a bigger impact on that. So no career path is a straight climb up a ladder or predictable progression. The career is a journey, the career path is a journey. And it's like charting a course by a boat. You must navigate the tides and be prepared for times of rough water, but then there's going to be also times of smoother sailing. Setting career goals and planning a path to success is important, but it pays to be aware of other options and be open to other possibilities. You never know where your path is going to lead. And, you know, I'm just curious. I wish I was able to have a conversation with you to see how surprised you were in learning what those career clusters that you received in your career survey were. So as we're getting a little bit closer to the end of the session, let's move to this final slide here. I want to remind you that in upcoming sessions, you're going to examine the outlook of specific fields, and you're going to create a more personalized plan to find and keep your job. You know, you need to have that plan to find your job, but I think what a lot of people forget is you need to have a plan to keep and advance within your job. And I know I alluded to that term soft skills at the beginning of the session, but that's going to come in and that's going to have a big effect on that, on us. Okay, now for those of you that are following along at home, we only have a couple minutes, but I would recommend that you research the careers that you're interested in. So what I have here are a couple of different slides. I'm leaving it on for just a couple of seconds if you wanted to write down the links. But these are videos that will tell you more about the preferred career cluster that you selected. Now, these are just some videos. You also can go to YouTube. There's, you know, a world of videos there that will have people interviewed in different career fields, career pathways, and clusters. You can learn a little bit more that way. And then it might have video footage, or it might be, they'll have general documentary style videos about the career clusters, just like what you see here. So what you would want to type in the search engine for YouTube would be your career cluster, either agriculture, food, and natural resources, or if you found a specific pathway that you really love, start with that, because that'll give you a more specific response. And then, so these are going to be more videos related to different career clusters. And so I'll just leave this on for a couple seconds so you can kind of see if you wanted to jot these down. But again, there are lots of videos online, and you know, I use YouTube to learn about everything. You have access to a world of knowledge at your fingertips. So start using it to learn about your future. Okay, and then finally, oh, there's more. I forgot about this slide. Okay, so I'll leave this on for a few seconds if these are the ones that you were waiting for. And then, oh, more. There's a skills confidence assessment I'm hoping to get to on the very last slide. Yeah, so this is just an extra thing. You can use the skills profiler at the Career One Stop to match your skills with potential careers. And so this here is just another assessment, very similar to, it'd be a little bit similar to what we did before, but again, it's another resource to really help you hone in on your skills and interests, help match the career that you'd like to pursue in the future. I'm going to go ahead and stop share now. And I want to thank you for your time and attention. And I also want to remind you that we're going to be doing this next week. And the theme for next week is high careers. So we're going to look at careers that will be hiring people in the future. And that would be when you guys are graduating from high school or college and ready to enter the workforce. And if there are any questions, let me know now.